Happy birthday, Flickr. You're old enough to drink. 21 years ago today, this photocentric website went online as a side effort almost from a video game production company. And Flickr ended up far more popular than the video game itself. Let's take a look at a few key moments in Flickr's history and a few things that make it unique amongst online photo services and social networks, even to this day. In the late aughts and early 20 teens, it was the place for photography sharing. It introduced many of us to a lot of concepts that we've since picked up for other pieces of our internet presence. In a lot of ways, Flickr was the first place that many people started tagging and adding metadata for their photos, especially in the hobbyist world. Flickr made it easy to share not just individual photos, but albums, collections of images, or events or locations with our family and friends and people in our community. In many ways, Flickr represented the great aspects of the Web 2.0 era. Images from Flickr could be embedded elsewhere on the web easily, and this was roughly the time frame, the heyday of the blogging era, and so many bloggers used Flickr for their image hosting. Flickr was also the destination for shared images from large events such as South by Southwest and other big festivals where it was a commonplace that everybody could upload their work. Flickr not only allowed you to embed work from Flickr elsewhere, Flickr had a robust set of APIs or application programming interfaces that made it easy for other software, either websites or services, or even desktop software, to connect into Flickr programmatically so that you could easily publish work to Flickr from software such as Adobe Lightroom, or you could get those images from Flickr and display them elsewhere. Unlike most social networks, even to this day, where we connect with individual people, Flickr not only allowed personal connections, but even more important to Flickr's ecosystem were groups. And groups were, collections of images around any type of shared topic. Some of these were, fairly straightforward and common. There'd be a group for a given city or groups for common interests or genres of photography, such as, black and white or food. But anybody could create a Flickr group for anything, and they did. So there are very specialized Flickr groups. You could find Flickr groups about, specific types of railroad cars. You could find Flickr groups around nothing but numbers or images where a certain color is the theme of the photograph. Flickr's had a few owners over the years. Not too long after it launched, it was purchased by Yahoo for about 22 to $25 million, which seems like a lot of money, but really is pocket change when you compare it to some later internet acquisitions. I mean, the Instagram one obviously comes to mind where Facebook purchased that for $1 billion. Yahoo held on to Flickr for about 12 years, and then towards the tail end of that, it was pretty much in neglect. They sold it to Verizon in 2017, and Verizon, or a subsidiary of Verizon, then sold it to SmugMug in 2018, which, SmugMug is a company that's also a long-term veteran in the internet photo space. And this allowed the site to refocus on photographers because SmugMug is a company that's, by photographers for photographers. The time that Flickr was under Yahoo's control was fairly rocky. Everything from, user account migrations from Flickr system into the Yahoo system. Yahoo drastically increased the free resources that people got, up to a terabyte of images could be stored for free in the Yahoo era because, hey, Yahoo wasn't really worried about a business model. They just wanted to get as many people as possible to shove advertising in their faces. When SmugMug took it over and tried to get things back to a photography centric service, they also tried to get things back to a reasonable business model. So they had to reduce the free storage from a terabyte down to 1,000 images, which caused a little bit of kerfluffle and angered some folks. But, you know, unlike so much of the free social web where it's all about advertising and selling data, SmugMug wanted to again make this a photography centric service for photographers with a business model behind it, so I can't really fault them for that. Let's take a look at a few things that really are unique for Flickr, not just farther back in its history, but even to this day when we compare it with other services online. They have both free accounts and paid accounts, and their pro accounts mean that if you have a pro account, you don't see advertising on the site. That's not that uncommon. We've seen that model in a lot of different places. One of the angles on this that is kind of unique, though, is that if I'm a Flickr Pro member, not only do I not see advertising on the site, but if you come view my photos on the site, even without your own Flickr account, you're not going to see advertising as well. And so, as a pro Flickr user, you're not just removing ads for yourself, you're also removing ads for folks that you send to Flickr to look at your work. Another area where Flickr is interesting is, for me and for many people, it was our first introduction to Creative Commons and more open photography licensing schemes. Flickr made it easy when you upload work to the site to choose whether it's, all rights reserved, traditional copyright model, or to choose a licensing scheme where you can pick and choose what types of use you're going to allow for free, whether that's with attribution, whether it might be for, non-commercial use only, perhaps it's, allowing or disallowing derivative works to be created. And so Flickr fostered this, perhaps more open photography licensing community. Another thing that Flickr has that's fun to look at is the Flickr Explore page, which this is a page that has up to 500 photos every day that allegedly are the most interesting things on the site. It uses something called interestingness to determine these, which this is just an algorithm that takes into account many factors to identify the work that, in theory, is going to be the best photos on the site. So it's things like how many views are these images getting? Where are those views coming from? How many people are commenting on the images? How many people are marking them as, favorites with a little star there on the site? Are these images from people who are active in the Flickr community? All of this comes together, and for a photographer uploading your work on Flickr, if you get selected, automatically to be part of Flickr Explore, it can cause a nice little spike in the views on your work. Here's an example from a recent image I had get selected for Flickr Explore. One more thing that's been interesting with Flickr is that in 2008, they launched Flickr Commons. And Flickr Commons is a project where they provide free hosting for public domain images. They've partnered with museums, libraries, archives of other sorts to make sure that this work can get online and that it gets hosted so that, we have it not just for photography's sake, but because these are the types of images that help tell the story of our history. It's a nice little way that Flickr kind of gives back to the world beyond just being a commercial photography website. I've enjoyed uploading my work to Flickr, even in 2025. It's still something that I do. I'll drop a link down below if you want to go check out my work on Flickr, because it's about photography rather than a social media algorithm and advertising. Are you still using Flickr? Is it time to give it another shot? Can we make it 21 more years? Cheers to Flickr. I hope we've got 21 more there, and I hope to see you over there on the website.